All right, so I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about the mind-muscle connection. And this is going to be funny coming from me because I've tried to keep pace with the current scientific literature. And as all of you know, I tend to be open-minded with these things, even when I am proven wrong, right? When the weight of the evidence and data and everything else kind of says, Jason, you were wrong, I step up and admit it and go, okay, I was wrong. I used to make fun of this whole idea of the mind-muscle connection. Do you know why? Because I really dislike New Age hippie stuff. Okay, I don't believe in any of that. I think for the most part it's all nonsense. And that's just how I feel about the entire topic of the whole woo thing. I think it's ridiculous. And I think anything that comes out of it is again, just ridiculous. And so to me, the whole idea, the way people describe, you got to have the mind-muscle connection, man. Because it was guys like Frank Zane, who was, very much a New Age hippie type guy from the bodybuilding world, used to say that. And to me, that's how it came across. So when people would say that, I'm picturing crystals, people who believe in fairies, right? This is what I would picture with this mind-muscle connection. And I'm just like, no, lifting is about primal, raw. It's about performance. It's about moving big weights, workload, numbers, math, and just hard work. Okay? It's the reason I kind of have my whole work mode theme. It's the reason you even see me using chains instead of little ropes. So if I need to pull something up into a loop like that. That's why I have all these chains and other stuff in my gym, because that's always kind of been my philosophy, Again, but in that respect, you guys have also seen me deadlift over 600 pounds without a belt in my late 40s. Okay, I am about big raw lifts. However, these days I have started working more on physique stuff, and you guys do see me doing a lot more of these single joint exercises and squeezing and all of that. And the data has come out over the years. There's been a variety of data. There's been stuff looking at internal versus external cueing and EMGs. And again, mind-muscle connection is the same thing as an internal cue. You are focusing on feeling the muscle, right? Feeling the muscle work, making sure you feel that muscle contract, even as you fight against the negatives and whatever. Okay, there were data showing higher electromagnetic activity in the muscles when you do this. Although I used to always point out, we also got that when you just use external cueing and move the weight faster, right? Focus on exploding the weight. Okay, so that used to be my counter argument, but compared to baseline, it did show that the mind-muscle connection did something. Okay, it was measurable. It's like, all right, we can measure the energy, we can measure the electricity. Later studies have started looking at it, and what they have found is that mind-muscle connection, that focusing on the muscle does seem to cause a little more muscle growth. So some of the bodybuilders you talked about this were right. And you saw it even sometimes when performance was less, because sometimes it reduced performance to do it. Okay? Sometimes it reduced performance on a set. Sometimes when you did that, you couldn't get quite as many reps. And I've started working with that idea a little bit myself. So for me, I do that, and then I really focus on that when I'm getting close to failure so that I can make sure that I fail at a certain number of reps. Okay, so if I'm doing sets across, I start focusing more and more on that mind-muscle connection as I start getting to those terminal reps. If I want to reach muscle failure, if I start a set early on and know I only want to get about 10 reps, but I know I could probably do 12, I absolutely focus on that. Focus on that squeeze, focus on that control, right? Like you see me kind of doing right there, even on those curls. Okay, why? Because it makes me fail sooner. Because the muscles are working harder, we are hitting the highest threshold muscle fibers, because that is ultimately the goal. When you are no longer a novice lifter, your hypertrophy comes from the highest threshold muscle fibers. If you do not get to those deep fibers, you do not grow. That's it. Unless you change something chemically in your body, right? So some of your hormones in your body dramatically go up, and we all know what that means. And I don't care which hormones it is. It could be testosterone, growth hormone, insulin, whatever in your body. Unless you find a way to raise those anabolic hormones, The more advanced you get, the more you have to get to the upper threshold muscle fibers to see any significant muscle growth. All right, so this is another tool for us to get to that. And when you understand it for what it is a tool that will let us reach those muscle fibers, those deeper fibers, the ones that are the only ones that grow anymore when you're advanced. Okay? We have to be clear on that. Your intermediate fibers, by the time you've been training 5+ years hard, you can forget any of those fibers really growing much anymore. Okay? You're down to just the fast twitch stuff, those deeper fibers. Okay? We can reach those with higher rep, lighter weight training though. By going to failure and by, more importantly, focusing hard on that muscle, really thinking about that muscle, making sure you're feeling it contracting. And the same thing even on the eccentric reps. So I'm not telling people to do really slow eccentrics because that's been shown to actually can reduce muscle growth. But just your eccentric itself, I really like to feel that muscle fight. Even if it's only a 1 second on the way back down like you're watching in some of this stuff here. Okay, I focus on that. And that's what I would recommend with a lot of people. It's another tool in the toolbox. But I think especially when it comes to these isolation movements, I don't think so much on the big exercises. I don't think it's as important. At the end of the day, it's about going into deep stretches, doing workload, heavy weight for a lot of reps on quality reps. But we start getting into these smaller isolation movements. I think the mind-muscle connection, and again, we go based upon what that data shows. I think this is probably where it pays off. Okay? It will help you get there with a slightly lighter weight, which means we recover better. Okay? Because at the end of the day, we are looking at how hard is the training beating you up. Are you beat up for the same amount of stimulus? And when we can do things that just beat us up less, it makes sense. It makes sense. It's logical. It's rational. Okay. And so I've had to set aside, my biases against just the idea, just because I didn't like the idea. To me, just philosophically, it did not jive with my ideas as a strength coach. It was too airy-fairy. But I've come to accept, look, it really is something to it. There really is something to it. The evidence is there. And we've seen it work with bodybuilders on top of that in the real world. It's worth utilizing. But I think, again, where it shined is on these isolation movements to where you really squeeze the hell out of that muscle. I'm not talking about pausing or any of that. I actually think that can reduce, like pausing in a contracted position. I personally think that reduces muscle growth. But what I mean is feeling the squeeze in it, feeling the muscle, trying to feel the muscle as you are working. Making sure that the muscle that you are trying to stimulate is working as hard as possible. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys and gals next time.